If you're finding it hard to let go of something, ask yourself, is it because I have wrapped my identity around this thing? And if that is the case, then that.
Hello and welcome to the White Coat Entrepreneurs Podcast, the place where physicians, pharmacists, and other healthcare professionals who are pursuing their entrepreneurial dreams come together to share their journeys, insights, stories, and what they're learning, what they're doing, and how they're thriving in their entrepreneurial ventures. I am Dr. Victoria Onyeje, your host. Today, I'm excited to be joined by a very awesome guest who I consider a serial entrepreneur. She's also a doctor, and I'm just so excited to have her here. And I'm going to introduce her to you before I ask her to introduce herself and also ask her lots of questions about what she's doing. From the operating room to the world of luxury real estate, today we are sitting down with the remarkable Dr. Chiagozie Fawole, a John Hopkins trained and board certified pediatric anesthesiologist who has transformed herself into one of the most sought after into a real estate strategist for high net worth individuals, doctors, and busy professionals. She's the mastermind behind Servidocs, a real estate platform where she's built a powerhouse community of over 2,000 elite physicians who are interested in building wealth through real estate, whether it's luxury lakefront properties in the Finger Lake region in upstate New York or looking into her clients' deals around the country. Dr. Fawole knows how to spot opportunities that most people miss. But here is what makes her truly unique. She's not just another real estate guru. She's walked the walk in both medicine and business, giving her an insider's understanding of what busy physicians need to build lasting wealth. These days, she's also working on business acquisitions, keeping business owners from flushing their decades of work down the drain by creating strategic partnerships that allow for a successful transition. She's a physician, entrepreneur, speaker, and coach who is writing the rules of success for doctors and busy professionals. Please welcome Dr. Chiagozie Fawole.
Wow, even I want to meet me. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you
Dr.
for joining us
Victoria.
today. Can you please just briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Chiagozie Fawole. I am a pediatric anesthesiologist, like you said, and based in the Syracuse, New York area. I have three amazing kids married to Oluwatoyin. And by God's grace, we've been able to do different things, particularly mostly in the real estate space. Starting out from when I was a resident, actually did my first deal during residency. We've done fix and flips. We've put together deals with where investors actually came in. Our very first rental property was a syndication deal with a 12-unit apartment complex that I bought with $900 out of pocket. And then we've gone on to do different styles of deals. Now, though, we are mostly focused on short-term rentals, primarily based in the Syracuse, metro area, focused on lakefront property. And like you said, also working on business acquisitions now and helping other doctors and professionals learn to do similar things in the space. So thank you for having me.
Wow. Thank you for coming. I mean, like hearing how you purchased your first property, that's interesting. Like I must say, that's really interesting. So can you share a little bit about your journey and how you ended up becoming a pediatric anesthesiologist while also pursuing your entrepreneurial ventures?
Yeah, okay. So with medicine now, I chuckle sometimes and I say, well, I'm Nigerian, right? We do medicine, law, pharmacy, and what's the fourth thing again? Engineering. Yes, those are the four things that we do. After that, I don't know what you're doing. Just kidding. Anyway, when we came to the US, I was about 16 years old, started at Howard University. At the time, I was a little torn between, should I do medicine or engineering? Those are my two desires at the time. Anyway, I asked my dad, and he said, "Well, who do you think they'll need more, the engineer or the doctor?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, in a place where people are hungry, who do you think they'll need more? And I was like, "Well, I think it's a doctor." I was like, "Okay." So of course I wanted to do the thing that people would need more. Now, while I was a resident, though, how I ended up going into pediatric anesthesia, because I was a resident in anesthesiology, it came down to two things for me. It was if I should do cardiac anesthesia or pediatric anesthesia. And I realized, cardiac anesthesia is very busy. You're dealing with hearts basically all day. I felt it would be a little high stress. I like being active, but I don't like getting myself stressed out. So I was like, let's do the more, general thing that will get me kind of, because I'm the kind of person that I love doing multiple things. So I figured that with pediatric anesthesia that I could do multiple things in anesthesia, but still be somewhat of a specialist, right? Because I like being a specialist, but I don't like doing one thing. So, and I think that actually describes me in general. But yeah, that was how I ended up in peds anesthesia.
Well, and I think that's what makes you like a very powerful entrepreneur. Like like that desire to want to like do multiple things, even if it means you still specialize in one area. But to be honest, when I hear pediatric anesthesiologist, I still feel like it's something very delicate, like, like dealing with kids and all. Things can go wrong like very easily. So like I feel like managing that kind of like what I would consider like an intense specialty while still like running the multiple businesses that you run. Like there has to be maybe some secret skill, like something, I don't know what it is, but like that's actually like how I think about it. Like when I think about, because now kids are delicate, then even when you have to like, like in the surgery rooms, like this dealing with all of those things is another thing altogether. Like that's like sometimes the difference between people like coming out alive and them not coming out alive. So like I don't know how you like combine all of them, but I think it's pretty awesome. And then what you said about your dad asking you, who do you think they would need more? I think it reminds me of a conversation I had, I think, with my mom when I was torn between choosing science and art, like wanting to like maybe do law or do medicine or pharmacy and all of that. Now, moving on to the next question. What initially sparked your interest in real estate investing? Like, what was it? Like, what was that like tipping point that made you decide, okay, I'm going to do this, especially like in real estate, despite being a physician? Because we know what comes to mind when we say that someone is a physician. So, what made you like want to do something else beyond that and then to decide to do it in real estate investing?
Yeah. It was actually watching TV. Okay. Now, before I did watch TV, though, I had been looking around me, and during my residency, we had some really generous attendings. So we call them attendings here. I think in Nigeria that they're called consultants. But basically, the people that have kind of finished and now they're like the boss, right? So my attendings at the time they'll buy us dinner when we were on call with them. So like once the work had kind of calmed down, they'll buy us dinner. And I noticed that there were some attendings that will like dole out the cash. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, what do you want to eat tonight? Oh, we want to eat Indian. Oh yes, okay, order what you want and I'll pay for it," and all that. And then I had some attendings who will be like, "Okay, here's $10 for you to go buy dinner, and here's $20 for you to go buy dinner." And I don't say that not in any disrespect or anything. It was just a fact, right? But I said to myself, that means that there's a difference. That means that everybody is earning the same salary, but not everybody's getting the same income. Okay. So it means that there must be something that separates those who are willing and able to dole out the cash from those who are a little like, holding back a little bit. And it made me realize that I needed to be thinking about how I could position myself in the other category where money was not a thing that I had to hold back. And so I started looking, I started praying, I was looking for ideas. I was like, Lord, give me an idea, give me an idea. I would watch TV. I watch like Shark Tank, for example, where people are coming with their amazing inventions and things. And I'll be like, man, I wish I could come up with an invention. And then I saw a lady, a Nigerian lady actually, who had also gone to my Howard University, right? And she was selling bags. She was making bags and selling bags, like leather bags, and had this atelier that she put together. It really like branded it really nicely. And so she was making high-end bags. And so I thought, wow, that's amazing. What if I did that? So my actual first business venture was I said I was gonna make bags. That didn't go too far. That didn't go too far. But I didn't go too far, but I can tell you, I did buy the sewing machine. I did buy a sample purse that I was going to use. I did contact like the leather company. I was actually thinking about it, okay? But thankfully, while I was in that mix looking for my business idea, I was watching TV one day and I saw this show called Flip or Flop come on. And basically, what these guys were doing was that they were buying houses. They'll buy a house that looks like crap. They'll fix it up and make it all pretty, and then they'll turn around and sell it, and they'll make a profit. Now, at the time, I was making $56,000 a year, 56,000 a year as a resident. These guys, they made $60,000 in one flip. I was like, wait a minute,
Wow.
hold on, because here I was in my God knows how manyth year of medical training, and somebody had just made my entire annual salary in one real estate deal. I'm like, whatever they're doing, I need to go and learn, because clearly this isn't it, or at least this is not the only thing that's out there. Long story short, that took me down a whole rabbit hole, and I started learning about real estate. I started going on the online forums and things, and fast forward, I got my first deal done, and then the next one, and here we are.
Wow, wow. Like that's really incredible. Seriously. Like I think hearing those stories of someone making your entire annual salary in one business deal, like that's a big deal. Seriously. And thank you for sharing this. I didn't even know about like you trying to make bags. Like
Oh, you have no idea the businesses I have started. You only met me what, a couple of months ago. I haven't had the time to sit you down. If you want a list, come after this, and then we can talk about the multiple businesses Chiagozie has
are
tried.
you serious? I already know that you run multiple businesses. You have short-term rentals, you have
Oh
business
my goodness.
acquisitions, you have so many things. You even coach, and apparently there are so many others behind the scenes that oh my god, I think that you embody the spirit of an entrepreneur. You just always have like creative ideas. You can't just be tied or be defined by one thing. I think that's one quality that most entrepreneurs have. So I'll give that to you. Okay, you already told us about your first real estate investment. And so, how do you balance the demands of your medical career with managing your investments and businesses? Because I know that practicing is actually intense, or it's supposed to be. So, how do you balance the both? What are the strategies, the mindsets that have helped you juggle these different roles?
So one of the biggest things that was actually my personal catalyst when it came to investing was that after I had my first daughter, 3 months into that, my mother-in-law actually came to live with us. And as I was thinking about my life, I said to myself, this is such a blessing in your life right now. How about you work to create a return on her presence? Okay. So like, it was like, this is a gift you have been given. Okay. What can you do to make sure that you get a return, or basically give an account to God for this gift he has given you of your mother-in-law being around? And when I kind of had that thought, that was when my like entrepreneurial drive like kicked into full gear, because I didn't know how long she was going to stay. Okay, I had no idea how long she was going to stay. Now my first child is 10 years old now. Okay, so there's that. But so the first thing there is actually that I don't I don't do it all myself. My mother-in-law lives with me. That's the first thing. The second thing was that early on in our marriage, I realized that my husband, had an interest in things in the kitchen, and I realized that I could either have the spices where I wanted them, or he could do his thing. So when I noticed that he had some interest, he liked to like make stew or make rice or something. And initially I would be a little irritated about like the pepper. The pepper was in the middle. Why is it not back in the middle? And then one day it hit me. It was like, wait, no, child. Like, if this man enjoys this stuff, let him do his thing.
Mhm.
Okay, your pepper will be okay. Your salt will be okay. And so I let him. So for the most part, people survive without
Yeah.
me necessarily being the person in, over a stove. Okay. And sometimes people are like, oh, well, but you're the woman of the house. Doesn't mean anything. You're not gonna eat food, right? Right. So and I know that everybody's household is handled differently, and this is not one thing or the other. But basically, what I'm saying is, I identified areas where I could get help, and I took it. Okay. Same thing in my business. When I realized, you know what? I'm great at copywriting, but if I'm waiting for all the copy to be written by me, it ain't happening. Emails will go unsent, campaigns will go completely. And I was like, who do I need? Who in my life could help me fill that gap? And that was how we ended up connecting. So how am I able to juggle XYZ? It's actually identifying, areas where I am not the absolute end all be all, and you find out that there are very little, that there's a very, very short list of things that I have to do. And when I identify that list, I zero in on that and let other people be great in their own domain.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's actually very powerful because sometimes, like when you see someone doing multiple things, and because we don't know the entire story, we feel, do they have like maybe different hours in the day that we do? And I love what you shared about receiving help. Is a like that's a sentiment that I mirror. Like I am really very open to receiving help. There are so many things that maybe traditionally people expect me to do it, but maybe if my husband decides he's going to help me to do that, I don't have to fight it. I mean, I welcome it with joy. Or things like maybe going to the market, doing this, like doing school runs, so many things that I could go maybe one whole year without ever doing, just because my husband wants to help with that and all of that. So I think like accepting help is really important. But I still think even when you have help, or maybe that's just me, it's still because you go to work and then you have to think about like the multiple businesses that you run. I don't expect that to be easy. I expect that it should be overwhelming sometimes. So are there ways that you like that you juggle that? Because for every entrepreneur, there are times that it gets so overwhelming that you feel like you want to burn everything all down.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so like how do you how do
There
you
are.
deal with those moments and all of that, knowing that because even if you have your husband, you have your mother-in-law and everything, somehow mentally you still have to think about your kids. I mean, I have helps, but I still have to think about my kids. I still have to like supervise what are they doing, what are they eating, what did they learn from school and all of that. Then I still have to think about like serving my clients, and in your
Mhm.
case, the people that you coach, the businesses that you're currently like maybe interacting with people, like maybe discussing how it's going to be acquired and sold and all of that. So how do you juggle like those moments of overwhelm and just feeling like, okay, should I just focus on being a medical doctor, or should I and leave entrepreneurship, or should I even forget this practice and then focus on entrepreneurship, or should I just burn everything to the ground? Like those moments, like how do you deal with it?
No, I feel like at every very often entrepreneurship sometimes can push you to that point, and sometimes multiple times. Okay, sometimes it almost feels like, if you're not feeling that, then maybe you need to actually are you pushing hard enough? Sometimes it feels that way. And there have been times when I have decided that, oh, okay, child, I think you have overcommitted yourself. Because that's one thing. I think if you have my personality type, if you're a similar kind of people, you find that lots of things interest you. And because you are good at certain things, you're like, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. Um, so it's actually something that I check myself on quite often. Like this afternoon, for example, somebody reached out to me and said something, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? I can help you do this." And out of the blue, I volunteered myself to do something that honestly I didn't have to volunteer myself. And after I said it, I was like, "Oh, child, like you know what you have to do today. Like, why did you just volunteer yourself?" And the thought came, and I said, I could actually find a YouTube video and send to this person instead of having to do it myself. Now, in retrospect, I'm like, okay, I think I'll actually just do it, but I wouldn't let it take me any more than 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. And once I kind of told myself, okay, you just do it 5 or 10 minutes, then okay, do it, push it off, it's done, it's off your table, it's off your plate. It becomes a problem when you now sit there and ruminate on it and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then you allow negative thoughts kick in. You're not doing the thing, you're not thinking about other things. You're just wasting time and kind of beating yourself down into a cycle of negative thoughts. Now, the next thing there is when you realize that you have overstretched yourself, stop, take a step back and ask yourself, what on my plate right now does not need to be there? Okay. I found myself in that kind of a moment maybe 2 or 3 nights ago where there's something I have a few things that I'm working on that are like actual core project. And then there's this other thing here that I'm like, should I really still be doing this right now? Things aren't moving as fast as I wanted to be. And I thought about it, and this was like before I went to sleep. And so I said, okay, I gotta say, hold on 1 second. Is this thought right now a thought of just overwhelm? Like, is this overwhelm or is this a real problem? And I said, don't do anything rash this evening. Think about it in the morning. Because at that point, I figured I was stressed. I wasn't falling asleep because of this thought, right? And so I wasn't in the right frame of mind to make a decision about that thing of whether to go ahead or whether to pull back. So I said, you know what? Let's wait until morning. And thankfully, with that thought, I fell asleep. Now, the
Wow.
morning came, or yesterday came, and I was like, is this really something that I should be working on? And I voiced it out loud. I told my husband, I was like, here's a thought that's going through my head. And we kind of talked it through. And he helped kind of nudge me one direction versus the other. And I'm still chewing on the decision, but at least I haven't burnt it all down. Okay? I haven't burnt it all down. I will probably still be reaching out to the people involved and saying, hey guys, I may not be the best person right now, or I may actually just carry on with a different portion of the project. So I'm still kind of deciding, but the point that I'm making there is when you feel those thoughts of like overwhelm, this is crazy, what am I doing? Pause. Chances are that you're in a bit of you're stressed. It could be that you haven't slept well. It could be that maybe a child is sick. It could be that maybe you expected much of yourself and then you fell sick, right? Like, last week or 2 weeks ago, I came down with a cold. I thought
Wow.
I was going to have done boom, 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 boom. But then my week and a half, I wasn't as productive as I thought I would have been. Now, I could have beat myself down, or I could realize, child, you weren't feeling well. Okay. Like, take it easy on yourself. So sometimes it is stress. It is, physical, physiological stress that actually gets you to that point. And when you get to that point, listen to yourself, listen to your body, give yourself, grace, first of all, but give yourself rest. And then you can come back and decide, okay, now which of these things on my plate are supposed to be there? Which of them can I delegate to somebody else? Because that was the next thought that came to mind. Can I hand this thing off to someone else that will do it, even if it's 80%? Because that's a trap that we fall into sometimes, that we say, you know what, but I'm the best person to do it. You may be the best person, but if you hurt yourself, you will not be there at all. So how about you give it to somebody that can do that, like 80%, and sometimes 80% is even all you need, or even 60%. Heck, curly care.
Wow, thank you so much. I feel like the things you're sharing is more like a master class on productivity because, like, what I hear you say, one is identifying the source of your overwhelm. I know
Yes.
that most of the things you shared are things I can relate to. There are times that, and like the thing is, I don't understand how when I get overwhelmed, then I struggle to sleep. I mean, I should just fall asleep and then forget about all this. I could maybe like those are the days that I will struggle the most with sleep when I'm actually overwhelmed and
When you need the
stressed and
sleep.
overstimulated. And that's when I actually need the sleep. So, like identifying the source of the overwhelm, then giving yourself grace. Because it's normal to like want to beat up yourself, look at the to do lists that are left undone and feel like, oh, I could have done better. When if you actually identify the source of the stress, it's not exactly your fault. Then another thing that you said that stood out to me was about really realigning your priorities and determining what stays and what goes. Like I think that's really important because
Yeah.
like I can say I'm guilty of having so many ideas and thinking I can do it all when in fact I only have so much time in a
Yes.
day. I only
Yes.
have so much level of focus and somehow it doesn't even make sense to try and do it all. And then the part about delegating is so important. There are so many things I know that I could actually ask someone to help me to do, but then I know that they won't do it the way that I do it. But then I think it still makes sense, even if they don't do it exactly the way that I do it, but then they will get it done
Yes.
instead of it piling up and then adding to my to-dos. And most times they will do it decently, just that they won't do it the way I will. And I think that's normal. There are so many things that maybe if you ask me to do it, I may do it well enough, but maybe not just the way that you would do it, like maybe with the quirks and other things and all. But then it still will get the desired results, just that it won't be exactly the way that you do. So I think like you actually like just gave like a master class
But
the
you know what else
productivity
though? What
and peak
actually,
performance.
what people don't even realize sometimes is that sometimes when you delegate the task, they get to do it better than you.
Hmm.
You listen, when I tell, as in, when you, when you actually delegate to the right person, you will find sometimes that you're like, why was I doing this to start?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like if you look at the team that we had, our team, between your copywriting, Carla's work or whatever, like there are days that I'm like, why should I shouldn't even touch this thing because I may mess it up. Like I mean, look at the
Yeah.
beautiful email that this person just wrote. Like, why should I even touch it? Right? That you will actually find that what you thought was like your zone of genius,
Mm-hmm.
somebody else coming in could actually possibly do it better than you. And it's
Mm-hmm.
when you humble yourself to realize that that is even a possibility, you will raise your standards for looking for people to help you, and you will then get to now enjoy the fruit of living of doing business in community, doing business alongside other people.
Yeah.
But
Thank.
it's a skill that has to be learned, because sometimes there is a learning curve. There is an investment that has to be made, both financially as well as time wise, and even in the individual sometimes, for them to
Yeah.
actually learn to do it the way you want to do it. But if you actually just open your hands and get help, it's very well
Yeah.
worth it.
Thank you so much. And I think there is also that place of like releasing control, of not wanting to like always be the one, like being in the nitty gritty, like the weeds of every single thing. But like this perspective that you shared is actually refreshing. And while you were talking, I was just thinking like some of the things that I ask people to help me to do, and they do it way better. So we have to actually like acknowledge that we are not the best man for some things. That's the truth. No matter how well we do it. I remember there was a time that I used to obsess about like maybe Canva designs for some of my social media platforms, and I would spend so much time, like the amount of time I used to waste on it. And when I ended up delegating, I just kept asking myself, why didn't I do this earlier?
A
Why
long
did I
time
waste?
ago.
Like it felt like if I could redeem all these hours that I have wasted, always like cleaning, doing this, trying to research this, and I saw that I wasn't even doing a good job. Like this person was actually doing a way, like the job was so good that I was like, oh my God, like, why did I waste my time all this while trying to always do this and figure it out and get frustrated and then come back and change it and all of that. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. I just feel like this is what you need if you want to like that when we say like peak performance, like if you want to be like really productive. So I like that you shared that. Okay, then before
There
the next
was
question that I you wanted to
okay.
say something.
There was something that popped in my head actually as we were talking earlier, and that was about the piece of letting something go. After you've analyzed things that are in your hand, one thing that I find is that for a lot of us, the thing that keeps us from letting things go is the identity we have built around ourselves with that thing. So when you're getting overwhelmed and you see what's on your plate, you ask yourself, is there anything here that I can let go of? If you're finding it hard to let go of something, ask yourself, is it because I have wrapped my identity around this thing? And if that is the case, then that is actually something you need to open your hands. Open your
Wow.
hands and let go, because it very well may be the thing holding you back from your next level. Um, yeah,
Well, I think that's the most powerful point that you shared. And I like that's a whole conversation for another day. Because I
another day.
remember like having to like even studying like maybe a medical course for years and then doing something else, whether it's in addition or transitioning fully. Sometimes like we've built so much identity that is like, I must not be known for anything except this
Yes.
particular label. So like that's a whole master class. Like that's a whole like that sort of like limits us. And when you're thinking of like other things that you could do is like, oh, but they know me for this. Oh, but I'm this.
But
Oh,
I'm
but
a
I'm
dog.
this. So like that's a conversation for another day. Okay, so now Doc, like moving on to the next question, I would say, do you think that maybe that there are unique advantages or like maybe perspectives that your medical background or practice brings to your investing and entrepreneurial pursuit? Do you think like maybe there is any maybe skill, mindset, anything? Do you think there are any advantages that like that it contributes to what you currently do now, like in addition to it?
Yeah. So a few things. The first thing is that when I was so after I began investing in real estate for a while, I would find myself in physician groups or physician communities and see people posting about their deals, and I'm like, nah, that ain't it. No, no, no. And so I felt that, you know what, this is a community that tends to congregate, okay, because we feel amongst ourselves that like others don't understand us, okay. Nobody understands how busy I am. So like when you see a number of physicians congregate, it's like I can hear the guy over there saying, oh, come invest in real estate. But all that they're hearing in their heads is, yeah, you can say that because you don't have the time stressors that I have. Or you can say that because you don't have to be awake at 6 a.m. To be in the operating room by 7:30. Or you can say that because you don't have to take, 24-hour call. So for me, my background in medicine actually opened up to me an entire niche of people to help get started investing in real estate. Okay,
Mm.
and so because of my background, I could relate more with physicians, I could relate more with professionals. I could say, listen, I know you think you can't do this, but here we've done it. Okay, I could say, I know you think this is nothing for you, but come and listen, because I've heard it and I've seen how it can work for me, and maybe it can work for you as well. So to just giving me an understanding of the stressors, the pain points, the reasons why a lot of physicians or professionals wouldn't want to do something, that's definitely a plus that I had. The second thing was, generally speaking, physicians are generally considered, a really high earning specialty. So actually, even just being able to use your salary as a buffer, in your entrepreneurial journey. I know that a lot of entrepreneurs are doing their thing as their sole source of income. For me, I went part time. I went part time maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I was actually part time for like a good year and a half, and then at some point things got really tough on the entrepreneurship side. And guess what? I went back full time. I'm like, I'm not gonna be here pretending and telling you, oh well, I'm part time and I'm suffering I'm suffering at home, doing whatever. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, just get it together. If you need time to get your finances back together, you still have a job, right? That you can go back and do while you're sorting out yourself on the entrepreneurial front. And so having even just that buffer, having that, it takes off a lot of stress to know that, okay, even though, I may try to sell you on my course, I may try to sell you on my event, I may try to sell you on my program, but guess what? If you don't show up, I'm still gonna eat food. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's for your own good, right?
Yes,
It
yes.
takes a lot of pressure off your sales. Hopefully, it doesn't make you lazy, but at least it takes a lot of pressure off. That, if you have downtime or whatever, you can actually it can buffer you at least until you get back on your sales feet. Yeah, I think those I would say are two. Oh, and then the third thing, of course, is we going through medicine is not necessarily an easy road, right? So it's like when you are thinking of doing something and you realize it may be hard, but is it med school hard? Probably not. Right? It's like this may be challenging, but is it med school challenging? Maybe not. Right? Like there may not be that many, 1% of people may make it to the top, but you've already done a 1% thing before, so
Mm-hmm.
you might as well try it, right? It gives you at least that mental sort of, reminder that, like, calm yourself. Things may be tough, but you've done hard things. You'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this conversation a little too much, I must say. Like, Doc, you are such a powerhouse. And like the thing you shared about like having that buffer, like not having that pressure on yourself. I remember I was scrolling on Instagram, I think that was yesterday or today, and I saw a nurse. She had started an entrepreneurship venture. I can't quite remember exactly what that was about. And then when it got tough, she started applying for jobs. I think in her own case, she even quit practicing. And then she shared her video of how she started reapplying and how she finally got a job and she's happy and she will still be running her business on the side. But for now, she has a job. And to be honest, sometimes I tell myself that I have studied the kind of course that no matter what, I won't be stranded.
Yep.
I can always dust my certificate and go back to like, okay, like
Put on that white coat again, show up at the pharmacy. You're
yes.
good.
I renew my license. So so I think like I like that perspective. And if we look at it from that way, being a physician, a doctor, or even a busy professional gives you an edge that some other entrepreneurs do not have. It gives you an edge that you know that whatever happens, you have something to fall back on. Whether you are doing it part time or maybe you are one of those that maybe they quit it fully, you always know that you can always go back and get something nice and use it to sustain yourself because the market is not always stable
Hmm.
and anything can happen because it requires like some sort of like ironclad mindset to be an entrepreneur and then thrive in it. And then the thing you said about is it med school hard? There is a kind of resilience that medical school builds in you. If you've studied any of those tough courses, you're like, I've done hard things. Like, this can't be that hard. And you know, like that season of your life, I mean, like when I was in pharmacy school, like the way people would complain, the way people would change departments. Like, if you started like maybe 100, you might end up
Hmm.
graduating maybe 50 because now people had to like go on to do other things
Yeah.
and all of because they felt like they couldn't like keep up with the stress and all. And then think about like even like something as tough as medicine, like anatomy and all of those things. Like if you could put through with all those things. So what is entrepreneurship that you can't do? Like what is that hard thing that you cannot do? So I think it gives you like a sort of can do mindset, like a level of resilience that if I've done this, I can definitely do this. Thank you. Thank you so much for pointing that out. And then moving on to the next question. And how has your approach to investing and entrepreneurship evolved over time? I just heard you say that there was a time that you went part time and then you came back. And what has been the most significant mindset shift you have experienced? Like at this point, you're still practicing, you're still running like multiple businesses. Like, what has been the most significant mindset shift you've experienced, and how has your approach to investing and entrepreneurship evolved?
Yeah. I'm a very optimistic person. Okay. I'm a very like can do. Like if it can be done, I can do it. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I actually live by that. Like I actually believe it and I know that it's very true. So people actually tell me that like in fact my friends laugh at me, okay, because they say Chiagozie has the idea, give her till morning, she has a logo and a landing page done. Okay, like taking action has been like my thing. It's like, okay, I get the idea. I'm like, okay, do I want to do this? I want to do it. All right, let's get it. One, two, three, it's done. Now, what that does is that it helps me get things started. It helps me actually move on things. But what it also means sometimes is that there have been times that I've found that maybe a little extra information may have changed my mind. Who knows? I don't know. I tend to ask questions that I feel are reasonable questions. But I think about it. I've always been like an optimist when it comes to looking at things in general. Okay. Now my husband is on the other side. Okay. He is more of what I'll call a pragmatist. I'm a huge visionary type person. Like I envision to 5, 10 years from now. Okay. But he is more of a person that says, okay, how are you actually going to get it done? Like, he's the kind of person that you tell him something. Let's say you tell him, I'm going to travel to Vermont in 2 weeks. He's going to ask you, who's going to pick you up on Tuesday afternoon that week? You're like, dude, I'm not even bought the ticket yet.
That
I'm
level
like,
of attention to detail.
you're asking me a question of like 3, 5, 7 steps from now. And when we first got married, like I'm like, how can anybody think like this? Like we've not even done step one. And I think about such a tiny detail. And then he'll tell you, no, I'm asking because the person that's going to pick you up on Tuesday afternoon is going to have to catch the ferry back. And the ferry leaves at 5 o'clock. So you need to make sure like his mind thinks in such like fine details. And when he
Wow.
talks, you're like, you're actually right. Okay, so let me go and be looking for who's going to pick me up, 7 to 5 days from, 10 days from now. But what I have found now is that between the two of us, we make a very good driving team. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because before I used to see it as, I'm going, you're stopping me. I'm going, you're stopping me. But now I see that no, 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 no. I'm accelerator, your brakes. Between the two of
Mhm.
us, the car can move safely. So how has my investing, approach changed? Is that now, after having had quite some significant, both investing and entrepreneurship experiences, now I'm like, okay, I know everything is going to go well, okay, but what could go wrong? Right now, now I'm actually like, okay, now I actually talk things out with my husband, and I'm like, okay, let's talk this through and let me hear your brain on this, because I know that left to me, it's all going to be fun, it's all going to be gravy, right? But from your standpoint, what do you think about this? And then he goes, well, this is kind of like, here and there and there. And so now I'm more apt now to think more of what could go wrong, knowing that I am more so an optimist than a pessimist. There are two ways. As in, you can think of what could go wrong from now till tomorrow and never get started.
Mhm.
But I now think about what could go wrong as a way to temper my excitement about something. So
Yeah.
that way I'm considering and making contingencies about different things before I take the leap.
I think that's a really beautiful balance. And like, yeah, I think that's a great balance. And then looking ahead, what are your goals, your aspirations in terms of like maybe growing your investment portfolio, expanding your entrepreneurial ventures? What are the exciting things you're currently working on? And yeah, all of that.
Um, so right now, my mind is really on acquisitions, and the reason is this. Now, for the last, God knows, maybe I don't know, 10 years, almost 10 years now. Actually, no, 10 years. We've been heavily focused on buying real estate, fixing it up, doing all that, and I've been coaching on that. But when I notice what's happening in our physician space, to be very specific, it's almost like I felt like I need to be like a town crier, okay? Because a lot of the economic forces, particularly in the United States right now, and it very well could be around the world, I'm not so sure, but the United States, to be very specific, a lot of the forces are working towards squeezing physicians out. And I don't say that from a victim standpoint, I say it from a reality standpoint. And it's not that anybody is necessarily, being there saying, I hate doctors, let me get them out. No, it is that everybody is pushing for their own benefit, and the restraints and restrictions that you have on being a physician are just such as make it a little less favorable to stay in quote unquote business as as a mere physician, if there's any such thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what I also see is that a lot of people have not seen the writing on the wall. They kind of see it because, for example, CVS and Walmart and all these like grocery stores have tried out having clinics without physicians in them. Okay.
Hmm.
So if people's primary care is not involving physicians, right? They found ways basically to have people that have not gone to medical school, who have gone to different levels of nursing and physician assistant school, not have to have gone through those rigors, do the same things without the same burden of loan and debt that the doctors have had to go through. Okay. And this is not a statement of one better than the other or whatever. Okay. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's just a fact. Okay.
Yeah.
That even I was talking with a young lady, a high school student recently, and I asked her, what do you want to do? She was like, I want to be a midwife or a nurse practitioner or something like that. And I was like, really? Do you want to be a doctor? Like, you don't want to be a doctor? She was like, nah. She was like, I don't want all that debt. Because she, even a high school student now, knows that she can be doing similar things and be getting a decent enough pay without having to go through all the rigors of medical school. I'm like, even a high school student can see it. Amazing.
Wow.
Okay. A lot of physicians have seen the writing on the wall, but they think that because that their degree will keep them from being pushed out of the marketplace. To which I say, I'm sorry to be the bearer of this news, but it may not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There are now hospitals where the chief medical officer is not a physician. There are now, there are now
Wow.
places where the head, where the chief hospitalist is not a physician. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, somebody hearing this, outside of the country will be like, how can they allow this? To which I
Yeah.
say, I don't know, but it's there. right? They say, well, there's a scarcity of physicians, and guess what? They fill it up with people in other roles, and at the end of the day, they justify that somehow patient care is still maintained. Now, in our doctor circles, we argue otherwise, but that this is neither the forum nor the place. But what I am, the message that I've been trying to get out now to those who listen to me is your degree is not a chieftaincy title. Your degree,
Wow.
your degree is just something that you got to give you some degree of validation to compete in the marketplace. The day the marketplace decides that they don't care about your degree is the day that that degree loses its value. So if you need to start to read the writing on the wall, read the writing on the wall and start to work on the things that will give you meaningful income, hopefully to the point where you can replace the income that your degree was giving you. Okay, so replacing that income was where I was getting to. And what I found was that, I love short term rentals. I can talk about it from now till the next 4 weeks. But if somebody goes through the process of getting one short term rental, let's say they bought a really amazing one, that property makes $250,000 a year. Okay, the profit from that's going to be like, let's say 50K, 60K. So for them to replace their doctor income, they'll need three, four, five, six, seven of those.
Hmm.
But I was listening to someone and they were like, you can buy a business. And I was like, huh, interesting. Let me look into this. And I looked and I saw that with one transaction, we're buying a business, you can buy a business that replaces your entire annual salary in one transaction. So I
Wow.
said, listen, I love my short term rentals. I want to teach you short term rentals. I love real estate. Okay. But for most of the people that I'm talking with who are going to be facing these economic pressures that I just described, a short term rental is a luxury item. Is something that they should get after they have secured the bag with their income fully covered.
Hmm.
Okay. And that's why I now spend a lot of time. That's why I'm now focusing a lot, just talking about acquisitions, telling people what is possible, bringing people who can teach them so that they don't end up blindsided in what I think may be a few years. We may
Wow.
already be there in some places. People have already been fired and lost their jobs already. Okay.
Wow.
But I still believe that it's almost like building an ark. There was enough time to build the ark before the rain came. I feel like this is the time that we're in right now for people who are highly degreed to be working on things that will give them meaningful income, depending on how things end up panning out.
Wow. Like this is like a major wake up call. And what you said about your degree not being a chieftaincy title, like I feel like that should be like maybe the slogan of a major ad telling people to wake up. Like it might sound controversial, it might ruffle a lot of feathers, it might make people defensive, but that is true. It's just like in, let's say like in Nigeria, where you see pharmacy technicians doing exact same thing that pharmacists like, and sometimes they even do it better sometimes, or maybe it appear as if
It
like maybe it
appears.
appears as if they do better, and some of them maybe they even stopped in high school, and
Yeah.
then some of us we took like maybe 5 6 years getting a family degree, a family degree, whatever the case is, and then when you if they have been around like maybe different community pharmacies for years, like maybe 5 years, 10 years, you see them like diagnosing and actually prescribing drugs that even as a pharmacist, like you're surprised. I remember working in a community pharmacy store and then working around alongside some pharmacy technicians. And some of these were like, they either like maybe stopped in high school education or anything. And because they have been around the block for a very long time, sometimes like you hear their level of, should I say
Sophistication.
yeah, I didn't know, I didn't want to use acquired expertise because that would be, yeah, but and you're like, how, when, like they know like maybe the active ingredients in drugs, they know the side effects, especially now with Google, and even now that AI is on the rise.
AI.
That may not be the right approach. Of course, as a pharmacist, like you still be like, this is not supposed to be this way. This should be a pharmacist's call. You have no point dealing with this and all of that. But then we cannot ignore the handwriting on the wall. In fact, some people walk into those places and they're already so used to these people. Oh, the last time that you told me to give my child this, that was how this stopped completely. Please, where is she? And this she is not. like a healthcare professional that actually like went through the system, like the higher education and all of that. So I think this is an important conversation that should be had more often. So I think like what you're doing is actually very needed. It's very timely. And it might be like maybe a difficult thing for people to take in, especially physicians, but it's very necessary. If
In
those that will hear.
And I mean, if you scroll through my wall, you will see it. Like people don't take it to, as in a few people respond well, but some people like get really up in arms. And the thing is, when I say these things, I am neither endorsing
Mhm,
nor condemning anyone in the whole thing.
mhm,
Okay, all I am doing is tapping the people whose livelihoods depend on their status. Okay, to let them know that when push comes to shove, when hospitals, when businesses, when employers are looking at their bottom line, people who may not know the nuanced differences, like to say, well, you have an MD, you have, this other degree, they may not, when they say, okay, this person earns, $300,000, this person only wants 185. Is this person doing so much different that I need to pay the extra $120,000? How much more am I making by this person doing this amount for $300,000 versus this?
yeah.
And when the math doesn't math, that's it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it is
That's
what
all
it
I'm saying.
is. I think like the summary is more like we can decide to hope that things will be the way we want it to be, or we see
Are.
how things are already and do whatever it requires for us not to be the casualty. I think
Yes.
that's what you're saying. You're not saying it should be this way or it should be that way, or this is this or this is that. Just like you either take things the way they are, or keep hoping that they should be the way you want them to be. So it's more like get your cushion, do what you need to do so that whatever happens, you won't be the casualty.
Yep.
And that would take me to the next question. So, like for physicians or other or the other professionals, maybe healthcare professionals, many or even maybe other professionals generally that are interested in pursuing similar paths, maybe in investing or in business acquisitions, what advice would you give them in terms of getting started and managing the risks involved?
Mm. Um, Getting started, the first thing is really just identifying. Actually, the most important thing is really defining. And now this is going to sound very cliche. It's going to sound very millennial. It's going to sound very 2024. But it's determining your why. Okay, why do you want to do this? Because if and to answer this question, I'm not asking why should you want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking why do you want to do this? Because
Mm-hmm.
the first option, why should you want to do this? You say, well, because I want to save the children. Oh, because I want to be able to invest the money into kingdom finances. Because, and then you say all these things that you know that in your heart of hearts is not really why you want to do it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If it is that because I want to make money, it's okay. I'm doing this because I want to generate more income. Nothing wrong with that. I'm doing this because I'm tired of, having to go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's okay. But the reason you have to be clear about why you're doing what you're doing is that just the way entrepreneurship and business and all these things work is that you will go through phases. At some point you will be just going through motions, learning the thing. Okay. But in doing the motions, you need to always pause and check. Am I getting closer or farther away from the thing that got me in here in the first place? Like for some people, they say, well, I want to be able to get out of debt. And then you're doing things, and the things that you're doing are getting you into more debt.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you pause and say, hold on, is this thing really doing what I intended for it to do when I first started? And now there will be there will be sometimes when you start. Sometimes you may have a dip. Sometimes things will come back up. But overall, you need to be able to just be like, okay, pause. What am I doing? Where are we going with this? How is this helping? Is it helping? And if it is helping, then great. If it's not helping, then what do I need to change, retool? How do I retool? Who do I need to talk to? what mentors do I need to work with? Like, keeping that why in mind will help you stay focused, stay on task, because trust me, once you get into the space, the shiny objects are very shiny.
Yeah.
Initially, you'll be like, I can't even imagine myself doing anything outside of medicine, pharmacy, name the thing, right? But after a while, you now begin to say that, oh, I can do all things. I can literally do all things. I can do drop shipping. I can do Amazon. I can do copywriting. I can do coaching. I can do, video editing. All of a sudden now you're all over the place. And that's not great either.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because I remember when my entire life revolved around clinical pharmacy. It was like how I could get this degree to get better in this area, specialize in this way. And now I look at some of the things I'm doing and even some of the things I'm interested in, and I'm like, how? How did I get here? And I think something that I took from what you said is that even if the only reason you want to do it is that you want to make more money, maybe you want to like live a bit more comfortably, you want to maybe afford vacations, well, it is still noble. It's not bad. If it is that I want to make more money, I want more cash flow, it is very okay. And now I'm going to ask you like three questions rolled into one because of our time. And one is, are there any programs or packages or events, anything that you have that could benefit some of those that are listening? And also, where can we find you? And then the last question is, what are the closing remarks that you have for anyone that is listening?
Right now, okay, so anybody who is thinking of kind of following, my stuff or being around our axis, being around our world, the best place to find me really is Facebook. But if you're going to reach out to me on Facebook, I will recommend that you also send me a DM and let me know you heard me on here, because chances are I may not respond if I don't see, a reason to, okay? But that said, in terms of like resources and things, in our community, we have different trainings for those who want to learn how to do short-term rentals, but specifically in the United States. I don't do real estate outside the United States. I can't teach you anything outside the United States. But I also have a YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com/@Dr. Fawole, that is definitely one place to go. And then on our YouTube channel, like on the videos, you'll see different resources and things that would be appropriate for your use. If you are a physician, I have different Facebook groups that are fairly physician focused. Our Savvy Docs Physicians Building Wealth Facebook group, as well as our Savvy Docs Physicians Buying Businesses Facebook group. So either of those you can tag along as well.
I'm going to put all of those links, like where they can find it. Any closing remarks? Thank you so much for joining. Like this is way better than I expected it to be. And I'm just here telling myself, somehow I'm going to have you again if you would let me, because like this was awesome. So any closing remarks, anything you have to say to the listeners? And yeah,
I'll say, if you're watching this, congratulations, particularly if you're watching this and you've not looked at anything outside of your core career thing. I say congratulations, because it was something like this that kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities out there. And continue on this path of listening to podcasts, reading books, exploring, because you really don't know the capacity that God has deposited in you until you start to tap and look and push the boundaries. And if there's anything that I leave you with, it is people are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. Okay? If you're going to think, but what will they say? Trust me, they're not even thinking about you. So you might as well do what you need to do to make yourself happy, be great, and do the things that God has called you to do in your life.
Yeah, thank you. That's for me as well, really. Thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing all the powerful insights, the stories, every single thing you shared. I believe that anyone that is listening today I know that they have learned a lot of things. Like if they are actually taking notes, I know that they will have so many things to go back to, whether it's about investing, acquiring businesses, productivity, juggling different things. There are just so many powerful nuggets in this episode. Thank you for coming. And I am so, so grateful that you joined us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on another insightful episode of the White Coat Entrepreneurs podcast. I hope you've gained valuable insights and inspiration to follow your entrepreneurial journey. Whether you're still practicing in the healthcare field or have ventured fully into new entrepreneurial plans, before we wrap up, I need you to do two things. First, join our White Coat Entrepreneurs newsletter by visiting www.whitecoatentrepreneurs.com so you can stay connected with exclusive content, industry updates, and valuable resources to help you navigate the challenges and opportunities of being an entrepreneur. Second, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Your support means everything. It could help us reach even more physicians, pharmacists, and entrepreneurs and other healthcare professionals turned entrepreneurs. And remember, you have the power to create wealth and positive change by combining your clinical expertise with an entrepreneurial mindset. So keep innovating, keep pushing forward, and keep inspiring others along the way. Until next time, this is Victoria Onyeji, wishing you success in all your entrepreneurial endeavors.